Welcome to part 3 of our lake restoration project. What was once a muck-filled lake is finally all cleaned out. In this video, we're going to be adding some much-needed structure for the fish to hang out in. Stay tuned. Click up here if you'd like to see the previous videos in this series. And be sure to check out our website if you'd like to get some CityBilly gear of your own. A portion of every purchase will be donated to help reduce the number of people at the airport who prematurely get in line to board their flight. Just imagine, these idiots don't realize that their seat is already reserved for them.
Isn't that sad? It's right on their boarding pass!
Together, we can help educate these morons that hurrying up to stand in line for the seat that is already reserved for them is just plain
stupid.
Buying CityBilly gear makes the world a better place, and they're the most comfortable shirts on the planet. So after dredging out the lake bottom is a blank canvas. Adding structure gives smaller fish places to hide and reproduce. And where the bait goes, the bass will follow. Structure can be anything. Basically, any change in the lake bottom is something that will attract a fish's attention. And if it has nooks and crannies to provide shade or shelter from bigger fish, that's even better. We tried to be cheap and creative with our structure plans, and we've got several ideas. Rock piles, our geothermal coils, a dock, some downed trees and tree stumps, depth changes at the lake bottom, and some repurposed trash that looks better than it sounds. So let's play some generic background music and I'll show you how we upgraded the lake. Before we get too carried away, I'll mention that this is a swimming lake too. We don't want people hitting stuff with their feet or their heads when they're jumping off the dock or falling from the zip line. Oh yeah, that's right. We're putting in a zip line. We had to come up with a game plan of where we were going to add structure and where we were going to leave open water. This is the deeper side, and I think it'll be best suited for swimming. This area is about 12 feet deep and is basically a bowl with steep banks, which isn't ideal for bass or bluegill habitat. Once the lake fills back up, we're going to build a massive dock right here. Back when we first drained the lake, we found this giant boulder that was right underneath our new diving area. We had the excavators move it out of the way closer to shore. We're planning on building the zip line across the center of the lake. We obviously don't want any hard objects under there either. So for those reasons, we're not going to bother putting structure on the deep side of the lake. This area is more ideal fish habitat. Shallow flats, drop-offs, and water depth that doesn't get above 6 to 8 feet for the most part. The structure will be focused on this side, away from swimmers and zipliners. The first bit of structure was already in the lake. The geothermal coils should keep the water around them a few degrees cooler in the summer and a few degrees warmer in the winter. They're conveniently located in between a drop-off on either side. And speaking of drop-offs, you'll remember from the last video that we had the excavators dig a deep pocket over here. Bass are ambush predators, and sudden drop-offs like this are a good place for bass to wait for smaller fish to swim over their heads. These pine trees have been on my hit list for a long time. Pine can't go in an indoor fireplace, so this was a great opportunity to use these trees for the lake. Small fish will have lots of places to hide in the branches. The generic shape of pine trees also keeps this piece of structure in one specific spot, without having random branches going off in all directions. Luckily, it was dry enough to drive the truck on the lake bottom. This made the job a lot easier. We dragged the trees about 5 feet below the water line. The trees will want to float until they get completely waterlogged, so I used some cinder blocks to weigh them down and hold them in place. We were trying to get this huge rock just a little lower in the water. But it ended up helping to weigh down the pine trees instead. The guys who dredged the lake dug out the stumps from the pine trees and a couple other stumps that were left from some recent tree work. They used their excavator to carry the stumps to the other shallow flat. There should be enough clay attached to the roots to hold the stumps in place. We had a bunch of rocks that came out of the muck when the lake was dredged. We made a few random piles to break up the large, flat area on the shallow side. There's something about walking around the bottom of an empty lake that was really interesting to me. Mrs. CityBilly thinks I'm crazy, but that's par for the course. The boys helped me load 50 bags of pea gravel for the next piece of structure. Pea gravel makes excellent spawning beds for bluegill, and growing boys make excellent helpers. Then we got creative with some construction trash that we had laying around. We've been working with some construction companies to raise and level our backyard. They needed a place to dump, and we needed dirt, so it worked out for both sides. Not all of the dirt was what you would call clean fill dirt. Some of the loads were mostly construction debris mixed with a small amount of dirt. Not exactly ideal for building a yard. Mrs. CityBilly and I removed a bunch of cinder blocks from the debris. We cleaned them up and stacked them to make an artificial reef. We built it between the shallow flat and the deep pool. We named this area the Coliseum. I'm hopeful that this will be a busy meeting place for fish of all sizes. I think it's in an ideal location to attract small fish to hide, but right on the edge of where the big ones will be waiting. My youngest helped us spread the pea gravel. That dude loves to help. I wanted to be able to locate this area from the surface when the lake is filled back up. I used one of our aerator lines to mark the deep pool. To mark the Coliseum, I borrowed an idea from the lake construction project on Bama Bass's YouTube channel. I tethered a duck decoy to one of the cinder blocks. When the lake is full, the duck will make it easy to identify where this honey hole is. Hopefully it will attract some ducks too. We've been trying to get ducks to nest at the lake ever since we moved in, but we haven't had any luck up to this point. I put in a wood duck house and a mallard nesting tube 2 years ago, but so far they've stayed vacant. We even helped raise some rescued ducklings with hopes that they'd stick around, but they flew away just about as soon as they were able. That's alright. We have a saying where I'm from. There's always next year. Ugh. Alright, back to the structure. Grandma CityBilly had a few leftover retaining wall blocks that I used to make a tiny version of the Coliseum. It looks more like the well from that movie The Ring. Maybe it's because I was an impressionable teenager when I saw it, or maybe I'm just a giant wuss, but that's still the scariest movie I've ever seen. Even so, we're calling this spot The Well. Back when we first moved in, there were these black plastic tubes that were partially floating at the surface of the lake. We had no idea what they were for, and in hindsight we probably should have investigated a little more before we just yanked them out, but thankfully they didn't lead to anything important. We ended up pulling out a couple hundred feet of tubing and found that there was 220 volt electric lines running through them. I don't know if it powered a fountain at one point or what, but like I said, it wasn't connected to anything anymore, so I was happy to get it out of there. I cut the tubes into sections and threw most of it away. I made a small rectangular form out of 2x4s and filled it with concrete. I placed some of the tube pieces in vertically and spaced them out with random objects from the garage while the concrete dried. Then we repeated the process, so we had 2 of these guys. We placed one on either side of the peninsula that goes up to the backyard. Mrs. CityBilly says they look like the Iron Throne from Game of Thrones, and like any good husband, I don't disagree. The last piece of structure is the dock. Docks are one of the most common fish attractors. Mrs. CityBilly and I took advantage of the empty lake to build these concrete piers. These piers will support a walkway out to a larger floating dock. I'll wait until the lake is full to build the floating portion. The next video in this series will show the dock build start to finish. When the dock is finished, it'll provide a large shaded area over deep water, which should attract lots of fish. I'm really happy with how the lake is shaping up. There's a fine line between too much structure and not enough. Hopefully we found a good balance. Now that the lake is all cleaned out and decorated, we can pray for lots of rain to fill it back up. When the creek gets high enough, we've been running the trash pump to speed up the filling process. I'm hoping the lake will be full again in the spring. It didn't take very long to attract fish to the Coliseum. Once the first course of cinder blocks was underwater, minnows were already stacked inside. After just a few short weeks, the Coliseum was completely underwater, and our duck decoy was floating over top. Remember how I said we've had trouble keeping ducks around? Yeah, even our plastic duck tried to leave. Apparently I need to work on my knot tying skills. Thankfully, the water was just low enough that I could tiptoe back out to the Coliseum. Right here is about the time I realized I had a leak in the crotch of my waders. Northeast Ohio lake water in December is pretty chilly. This is the face of a man whose outie just became an innie. Stay. The lake is filling up quite nicely. The deep end is probably over 8 feet already. Pretty soon, all the structure will be underwater and you'd never even know it was down there. But I'll know. And you'll know too. The trash pump is making a huge difference. I was really unhappy at first that I had to buy it to help drain the lake, but I'm really happy I have it now. The lake wouldn't be nearly as full without it. And with winter just about here, I'd be really worried about the fish not surviving if the lake was really shallow and it froze. That shouldn't be an issue at this point. I'm more and more confident that the lake will be completely full before spring arrives. Alright, that's it for part 3. Keep an eye out for the dock project and the zip line that'll both get built in the spring. And I have a feeling that we'll be adding a lot more fish to the lake next spring too. See you next time.
What if you shove your duck into your wader so you got both your hands? Looks like a child playing with a bath toy. You got this.
Oh, it's cold. You can click up here if you want to. You can click up here if you'd like to. You can click up here if you'd like to see the previous videos in this series. A portion of every purchase will be donated. A portion of every purchase will be donated. Keep an eye out for the dock project and the zip line that'll get built in the spring. Stay tuned. Adding structure will give smaller fish places to hide and reproduce. And basically any change in the lake bottom is something that will attract the fish's attention.
Get up, you little ugly. Come on, let me see what you got. What you got? That's all.
Your chain came off. You lost it. Lost it.
Isn't that sad? Too much of the head shake. I'm gonna wait for the dogs to settle down. What? Look, hawk.
A portion of every purchase will be donated to help reduce the number of people. A portion of every purchase will be donated to help reduce the number of people at the airport who prematurely get.
Between the cracks, it'll sit straight up. Ta-da!
Quiet. Alright, so the next thing I need somebody to say is I'm going to be talking about the new clothes.
I'll say it.
Oh, perfect. You don't even know what you're going to say.
Exactly.
I want you to say, feels good on my nipples.
Okay.
So,
my classmates watch this stuff.
CityBilly Adventures. Feels good on your nipples.
Stupid. Because I'm gone.
Fix your hat so your hair's not sticking.
Dylan, this was you. Look at the camera. Stupid. Stupid.
One more time. 1, 2, 3.
Stupid. Like this.
Yes, exactly. You got food all over your mouth.
What are you doing? I can't breathe.
Together, we can help educate these morons that hurrying up to stand in line. Anybody smiling?
I did.
Oh, let's do it again. Think about sad things? Together, we can help educate these morons that hurrying up to stand in line. Anybody smile?
I did again.
Oh, jeez.
I didn't.
All right.
I haven't smiled the entire time.
Good. All right, we'll do it one more time. Together, we can help educate these morons that hurrying up to stand in line. Did you smile this time?
No.
Did you?
No.
Oh, okay, one more time and that's it. Oh, for Pete's sake.
Oh my gosh. This is gonna be the greatest video ever.